All right, third grade, here is February number corner. Up here, you have the bridges, heavy hitters and bolds, and then the less heavy of ones and additional notes. I put a picture of just kind of their number corner, what everything is in a picture so that I could just talk through it a little easier. So one of the big hitters being calendar grid. Calendar grid here this month of February is focusing on area and perimeter. And you're looking at this 100 grid, the coordinate grid, and you're looking at a rectangle or a square each day and finding the area and the perimeter of that shape. And you're supposed to be trying to work toward using the area and perimeter formulas, kind of like making them known. Like if this is what's called the formula to find the perimeter of a square, P equals 4S. What does that mean? And seeing that what they're actually doing is making use of the formula without even knowing it. And what does this formula represent? A equals S to the second power. And yeah, they're only in third grade, but they might as well learn what that means. The side times itself. Side times side. And then you have the rectangle formulas for area and perimeter. So you have number one, daily, get your area and perimeter done. Number two would be collecting a certain coin every day. And you would spin the spinner, see how many of that coin, or maybe you roll a dice instead if you would rather not have the spinner, and see how many of that coin you're going to collect that day, and practicing writing that as a fraction of a dollar and in cents, and dollars and cents. So if you scroll on down to calendar collector and money, here are the things you would need to have printed. If you're collecting dimes, that's what they recommend the first month, you'd have some dollar grids taped up, and then you'd be taping on these dimes. So if I roll a 4, I'm going to collect 4 of these dime pieces, and I'm going to tape them onto the dollar grid so we can see that fraction as a visual, and that it's 40 hundredths, or otherwise known as 4/10ths of a dollar, which we would write as 40 cents, or we'd write it as dollar sign like this. We'd write out 40 cents with the cent symbol, or we could write out dollars, $0 and 40 cents. And there would not be the cent symbol after this one because we're using the dollar symbol, okay? And then every day we'd collect some more dimes that week, and we'd see what our total amount turns out to be, because we'll get over $1 and we're able to talk about what that looks like as a fraction and as a decimal in money and in cents. So there is a fraction collector sheet if you want to use that. It's in there, or you just have them writing it on whiteboards, okay? If you're looking for a worksheet of practicing counting by those dimes or quarters or writing them as fractions and cents, here's one you could use there. If you're interested in any of the newer digital tech-enhanced pieces for Number Corner, for Calendar Collector, here's a Google slide deck you could use if you didn't want any of it to be on paper. You can look at that. If you want just the digital display of the spinner, there that is. Or maybe you want to make use of the Money Value Pieces app. So when I'm using that app, I could say, okay, what did we spin today? A 3? 3 dimes? Okay, so I am going to collect 3 dimes over here. So you have just the money, or I can have the grid behind it, and we're saying, okay, we're comparing this to $1. We got our 3 dimes, so I have 1, 2, 3, and then we're able to say how much is that. Let's write it as a fraction of $1. So I'm going to write that that's 3/10ths of $1, or 30 hundredths of $1. And how do we write that in cents? That's going to be 30 cents, or we could write it with the dollar sign 0.30. okay? And then the next day we'd roll again, and then we get, let's say 2. So now I have to add on 2 more dimes. So now I go 2 more, and now our total is at what? Now we're at, instead of 3/10 or 30 hundredths or 30 cents, now we're at 5/10 or 50 hundredths or 50 cents. Get the idea? Okay. And then the other part here, the main part, is number line up here, comparing fractions over here. And some of you have this up in your room right now, probably from the month of January, maybe even December, with these number line fractions. So it'd be keeping that up and playing kind of guess my fraction or find that fraction that I'm thinking of. So by using this fraction chart, I'd give them this statement. I'm thinking of a fraction that has a 6 in the denominator and is less than 4/6. What could it be? I'm thinking of a fraction that has a 6 in the denominator and is less than 4/6. So they're going to use this visual. They're probably going to look at 4/6. They're going to look at fractions that have 6 as a denominator and that are less than that. So there's more than one possible answer, and can we name them all? So there's 2 of these that you could go through the month. Maybe you do 1 a day. And if you'd like them to fill in their own number line, so they have one to look at. Here is this one from Number Corner. The only issue I have with this one is that they did not mark where 1 is on this line. So for me personally, I would mark where 1 is so they're all the same. Instead of 1 being here for halves and then 1 being over here for fourths, because that could not be good for comparing. And then later in the month, if you want to get into the more challenging idea of what happens with fractions when they turn out to be bigger than 1. So what if I have 4 halves? Where's that going to be located on my number line? So now the sheet looks like this, where it goes from 0 to 4. And now what I don't like on this one is that 1, 2, and 3 are not labeled. So for me, again, personally, I would label those and maybe work on what does it look like when the halves extend beyond 1 or when the fourths extend beyond 1. Maybe not do them all, but just discuss like one of them, whether it's halves or thirds or fourths. Okay? Now, the other 2 that are not heavy hitters are computational fluency, which actually, as you know, multiplication facts they need to get lots of practice with that to know those facts. So there are some computational fluency Scout Them Out pages that you can peruse and maybe send home, so they have that available at home. There's some posters in there of the fact strategies, and do what you will with those. And then the solving problems was not another heavy hitter, but if you feel like you can maybe do one of these graphing pages, data analysis once a week, there are some of them to choose from. Some of them don't have any questions with them, but you could just take a look at the graph and wonder what's happening in it. So we could just look at this graph and come up with our own questions together as a class. So there are some of those where we can just look and peruse the graph. And then there are some that actually have questions with them. Now you guys get those cool Scholastic magazines, so you could do this data analysis by using your Scholastic magazines too. Okay, so there is Number Corner for February in a nutshell. Go forth and math on.